Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today's topic we are going to be talking about game day isn't won on game day. You know, all of you have been following me for some time, and thank you for that. I've did a lot of podcasts on a lot of different topics, and recently I've been working with a lot of youth athletes, high school to college athletes, to middle school athletes, and helping a lot of parents really kind of understand what they can do to support their youth athlete. And, also been working with a lot of parents that really understand the importance of being the example and helping them with their health as well. And that's my passion. That's something I've been doing for 25 years. And, the youth role, though, of educating parents is something that I recently in the last 2 to 3 years started doing a lot of. And today we are going to be talking about the youth athletes and parents, the things that you can do, not only from an education resource for your kids to teach them, but also things that you need to do in your language and you being the example as well. So this is going to be a podcast that I'm going to try to shoot in the next 20 or 30 minutes. Those of you that follow me know that we are in game 2 tonight. This is recorded on Friday night, and we had a good victory last night against Keller. So we are looking to win the series, which will put us, Prosper Baseball, into the semifinals. So hoping for a good night, great competition, awesome team. And let's go ahead and jump in to the beginning of the podcast. Let's go! The truth is, the scoreboard doesn't decide the game, your habits do. This is something I wanted to start with today because a lot of people think, if I lose the game, then therefore I'm defeated. And I try to teach youth athletes and even us parents our habits, our daily disciplines. That's what's going to determine the amount of games we win. We're not going to win every game. But if we can control our habits and our daily disciplines and our mindset, then we're going to win the majority of the games. But the most important thing is the character that we build, the person that we become, that is the true victory. So let's explain a little bit what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to talk to the youth athletes who's wanting an edge and parents who are looking to support that without smothering them. And parents, I say this because a lot of times you can continue to smother your kids and say, did you eat your eggs? Did you eat your bread? Did you hydrate? Did you? So we're going to try to teach you a little bit of things we need to do to, number one, you be that example, but also just let's teach them through education, not smothering them and always preaching to them. So let's start talking about the night before. The night before, you win tomorrow by how you show up tonight. This is something I've always tried to do with my kids. So the first thing that I always talk to my kids about, and this is my personal kids who are athletes, but not only that, my athletes that I build meal plans for, that I try to help with mental mindset, I teach them that 8 to 10 hours of sleep is a must the night before. And it's always. I mean, I'm very picky on my boys going to someone's house and having sleepovers, kids coming over to my house. It does happen. I'm not saying it don't happen, but I'm very picky on how many times that does happen and when that happens, because I can tell you the research has proven, guys, the more sleep that you have is going to improve on the chances of linear growth. It's going to improve on your hormone stability, increase in testosterone in boys. It's been proven through scientific studies that your average reaction time is a quarter of a second. With you do not get 8 to 9 hours of sleep more than 4 days in a row, that reaction time can double or triple. Now, that I'm a big baseball fan, but, I love football. I love lacrosse. I love all sports. But Tonight, Pearson is going to be facing a pitcher throwing 96 to 98. His reaction time is a quarter of a second. If he didn't get enough sleep last night, then his reaction time could be a half a second to 3/4 second. He's not going to have a chance. If your son is a receiver, same situation. He's got to get his hands up really, really quick. If your son is a lineman, he's got to get his hands and his feet in the right position really, really quick. So it all starts with sleep. That is the secret weapon. I'll have parents call me, what supplements do you recommend for my kids, first off? And I own a nutrition company, and I believe in hydration. I believe in creatine. I believe in a lot of supplementation, but I say the number one supplement for a youth athlete is sleep. That's going to make the biggest difference in growth hormone, mental clarity, and muscle repair and muscle growth is sleep. So make sure your athletes know that they are needing 8 to 10 hours of sleep. The second thing that I do the night before game time, and now here's something I'm going to really be clear on. I do not have to do this with my 2 boys anymore. I've got a boy that's going to be a senior now. He's finishing his junior year, and a boy that's going to be a sophomore. I just got off a phone with a guy named Hayden that lives out by Abilene, and he's got an 8-year-old son. And I'm really excited about teaching him these things and helping Hayden also on his personal health journey. And it excites me to when now that he is going to start these things at 8 years old, by the time his boy is able to be 12 or 13, he is going to have a routine. He's going to know his nutrition, his workout, all these things that I'm talking about. But when you're starting with your kids, maybe you haven't done this and they're older, or if they're younger, the night before, after you talk about the sleep, understand the importance of sleep, we talk about prep gear and mindset. Getting all of your uniform laid out the night before, your gear bag with your snacks, all these different things laid out and ready to go for the next day. The next thing that I help them with is mindset, and that is visualization. Guys, I am a big believer on visualization. If they have some highlight videos, maybe they have some good hits, maybe they have some good tackles. If it's football, if they're a pitcher, they have some good outings. But I work with them on showing them what that looks like. Take out your phone, Johnny. Let's look at your last 3 at bats. You remember those 3 hits? Let's watch these. Let's talk about these different things. Let's go through these mental reps. And those of you listening, maybe you've never tried this. It does seem weird, but I'm telling you, visualization is one of the most key things that you can do with an athlete. I've got a privilege of having relationships with mental coaches, that work with pro athletes, and I help a lot of different players as well. And that is the biggest thing that they work on is mindset and visualization. So starting with them, looking at, what's that first pitch going to be? How about if it's this? How about if it's that? What's that first rep? That first snap of the ball game, where do we need to be in what situation? So understanding the second thing after sleep is prep gear and mindset. The third thing is your parent's role. What is your role as a parent? The first thing is don't overcoach before bed. Yes, we're going to talk to them about visualization. Hey man, let's pull up your last 3 or 4 hits. Hey, let's pull up your last touchdown, depending on the sport, obviously. And let's watch this together and maybe watch it a little bit with them and then say, hey, let's focus on these things. Here's some things that you need to talk about. But you don't overcoach them. You ask them reflective questions instead, like, what's one thing you're proud of this week? Well, Dad, I'm proud because I hit most of my macros this week. Okay, what's one thing that you're excited about to do tomorrow? Well, Dad, I'm excited about, depending on their age, they might be excited about at 8 years old, like Hayden's son, about going and playing with his friends and getting snacks afterwards. That's great. They might be 15 and they're excited to face the pitcher that goes to another school. That's a rivalry and he knows that pitcher. That's awesome. But you don't overcoach before bed. You don't sit here and say, You know what? Last time you struck out on, a curveball. You better not miss a curveball this time. You got to do this. And, all these different things that puts added pressure on that athlete that's not necessary. So as parents has got to step back and say, hey man, let's get our mind right. We get ready for bed. Let's get our visualization down. Let's kind of talk through some different things, but you're not sitting here criticizing past mistakes. You're not sitting here over coaching. Make sure you get your glove always down. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. And we let them just have a calm evening and also talk about things that's not necessarily always sports related. Next thing is talking about how to calm the mind. Calm minds make big plays. So control what you can. Teaching this athlete that attitude, effort, and focus is what we can control. And we got to stay in the moment, one pitch, one snap at a time, depending on the sport. And we avoid scoreboard watching, or don't worry about social media hype. When your kids get older, there's going to be a lot of social media hype. There's going to be kids on Twitter that gets acknowledged and your son don't. All these different things. We control what we put in our mouth, the effort of training during that week, and we're not going to look at the scoreboard every 5 seconds. We're not going to look on Twitter every 5 seconds. We're going to have a calm mind because that's what makes big plays. I teach them breathe and reset. Teach them a simple breathing drill. Inhale, hold it, and then exhale 4 times before we get into the batter's box, maybe before the game starts. But also teaching them pregame affirmations. I've already done the work. Today I just got to show it. Teaching them these little bitty things, guys, is huge at the calm mind. You know what? My name is Jeremy Fouts. I've been doing the work all week. I hit my macros. I've got my electrolytes in. I'm a champion. Now I'm going to control what I can control. I've already did the work. Now I'm just going to go show it. So teaching your kids, your student athletes, that they have to have the affirmations. They have to breathe. They have to reset. They have to have a calm mind, because a calm mind makes big plays. Now, getting back into parents' row, be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Model calm energy. As a dad, I coached my boys till they was 12. I sit them down afterwards. I said, man, this is from 7 to 12, some of the greatest times in my life. I never want to ever forget it. I'm not ever going to forget it. But you're now going to be transferred over to someone else. And I gave both of them my word. I said, you probably won't ever even hear Dad in the stands. I'm not going to yell at the ump, maybe once or twice, but not very often. I'm not going to complain about the coaches if they play in the right position or not playing you at all. This is your game, and you need to play it for you. And I try to model the calm energy that I expect out of them. And that is big. I watch parents over and over at the game. They're yelling at Johnny. He's going to throw a curveball now. Be ready for the curveball. Don't step out. Don't do this. Don't do that. That little kid he's on needles. He's sitting there thinking, man, why is my dad being crazy? But he tells me he wants me to have a calm mind. Dads, moms, zip it. They get a hit, clap for them. If they don't, they strike out, then don't say a word. Just say the pitcher won that one. But you have to model calm energy. You cannot expect your kid at night talking about visualization, being calm, understanding how to control your pulse rate. All these things is so important, and then be a goofball, and the fans complaining about every little thing. The ump's going to miss some strikes. That's going to be the way it is. Your coach might not play Johnny every second, but how can we talk to Johnny afterwards and say, hey, let's take advantage of the opportunities when we do get that chance? But understanding us as parents' role, the other advice I have is avoid last minute advice in the car. Say, I love watching you play, man. Have fun. Don't again in that car ride say, man, you better be careful on that curveball because you can't hit a curveball. Or, you know what, you better be careful here. You better be careful there. Just have a calm mind and say, hey, you did the work, Johnny. You're a champion. Let's go out there and show it today. Let's teach that calmness, and they don't need no more instruction on the car ride. They need love, they need support, and they need affirmation that you did the work. You've worked out this week, you've ate the right meals, you've stayed hydrated, you did your visualization. Now we just go show it. The next part is nutrition strategy. I call it fuel to perform, don't guess. Fuel to perform. I was talking to again this friend of mine, Hayden, a few minutes ago, and his son is 8, and I said, "Man, I'm going to teach you a lot of things that I learned when my kids was 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, and the reason I want to teach him is not because of just my knowledge of nutrition for the last 25 years. It's because I experienced these things that he's going to experience with his boys." And in baseball, you'll play 2 games on Saturday, and then depending on if you keep winning, you might play 3 or 4 or 5 games on Sunday. And I can point out to every kid in the dugout that does not understand nutrition. Nutrition affects us adults, but a lot of times we're older, we've got a heavier body weight. When our blood sugars decrease, we're able to control that and show our emotions a little bit different than a younger athlete. So it's so important. It starts with the night before meal. Getting your athlete, talking about what we need. We need a good protein to carb ratio. We need to have our good fats. Talking to them, do you want chicken or do you want beefs? What do we want our carbs to be? Do we want rice? Do we want pasta? We're going to teach them. The reason we want carbs the night before is because a lot of those carbs is not going to kick in for fuel till about 12 hours later. Let's talk about our good fats, why we need these. Do you want avocados? Do you want me to put some olive oil in your dressing for if you want a salad as well? But talking to them about what their meal plan is, what with their game. A lot of people see, I post to this day, Pearson and I, our meal plan before every game. We our pregame meal, couple hours before we eat a real big meal, of our protein and our carbs and our fats. I talk to them about hydration. Hydration starts the day before. Getting into summer now, we start hydrating with watermelon, with quinoa, with all the pastas, with our hydration by Core Vive every night before we go to bed. The first thing when we wake up in the morning, half a body weight in ounces of water as well, plus our electrolytes, staying away from our sodas, which is caffeine, which is going to be a diuretic, which is going to dehydrate you. All these little things is key. The night before the game, talk to them about hydration and a good balanced meal of protein, carbs, and fats. Now, morning of game time rolls around. We're going to keep it simple, and we're going to do a carb-rich breakfast 2 to 3 hours before. Waffles with eggs, bagel with banana and peanut butter, something that's going to be a heavy enriched carbs focused, because carbs is where your fuel's going to come in for the athletes. We want some proteins with the eggs, but we want to lean a little bit more towards carbs than proteins before that first game. Core Vive Hydrate to replenish the sodium and the potassium and magnesium. But during and after game, here's something that's key. During the game, my kids are always sipping on the hydrate and mid-game, and then also paying attention in between games, maybe doing a protein shake by Core Vive with the collagen in it, for it can help repair the muscles that maybe we broke down, and it's going to give us the energy for the next game. And then something that's very important, I was telling Hayden that taking the grapes, or watermelon during the dugout to keep a good, healthy sugar, to keep their blood sugars up. Pearson, when he was 7, 8 year old, he was very, very little, So if I kept him munching on grapes, munching on watermelons, munching on a little bit of granola, during the game, just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, staying hydrated, then his energy levels stayed up. The kids that just drink a Gatorade and ate some M&Ms before the game starts, by second game, you're looking at them, their blood sugars has dropped, their energy levels has plummeted, and they're like, do we have to play another game? It's hot. Guys, understand the importance of nutrition. The night before, morning of game, during and after the game, they need that protein and that core beef hydrate to be able to flush the lactic acid out, help their muscles recover. And in the parents' row is having the foods available. Don't run to the dugout every 5 minutes, helping the kids pack up the night before, having those foods ready for them. Don't introduce new meals on game day. That's something we've learned. And then let kids eat early and snack often, to keep that fuel source that they need. All right, guys. So really the recap of today is game day is a reflection of your sleep, your mindset, and your nutrition. Success isn't magic, but it's a system that once you understand sleep, mindset, and meals, and us as parents, how we need to act is very important as well. It makes all the difference because the athlete that is listening maybe to this, or a parent of an athlete, the one thing I will tell you is start the night before to win tomorrow. And you parents, I invite you to give me feedback, some things that I can help you with. Tag me on my Instagram. The night before routine as far as what you're doing with your athlete, because I want to go build champions off the field first, but definitely go prove that the champion that your son or daughter is for during game day. So 3 ways to win before game day: sleep, mindset, and nutrition. And I promise you that game day is not just won on game day. It's won before the game ever starts. Thank you guys for joining me. Please share this with a friend or family member. I rely solely on you as a friend, as a supporter, to keep this podcast going. I do not do ads or anything like that. This is for me to be able to give back to my community that supports me, to go through my life examples, share with you some things that maybe I've struggled with that, man, I would have loved to have a 49-year-old man, teaching me this on a podcast when I was 25, 30 years old, trying to go through these processes with my kids. So share, leave us a comment, leave us a review. Google how to leave a review on your Spotify or whatever it is, and support our YouTube channel as well, and I would greatly appreciate it. I want to get the message out to help as many parents as we can. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Let's go.